best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. We got a mail here about indie comics for a change, which is pretty cool. Sort of about indie comics. It's actually probably more broad than that. But let's get to it. It goes, hey Perch Perchington. That name is stuck. That is the new name. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have to tell the story of how that occurred like once every quarter. Otherwise it's going to get lost. I don't know. Maybe we could do the oral history of this dumb show. How about that? Anyway, hey Perch Perchington. First of all, thank you for all you do. I appreciate your commitment to putting out so many videos. Many sane people would have given up by now. Thanks for that. Particularly from all the crap you take from pros and the drama fans who really aren't interested in comics at all. It means crap, but it's easily avoidable crap. That's the funny thing about a lot of this stuff is you turn off the computer and you go outside, and it's amazing how it doesn't impact you. It's weird. Anyway, back to the mail. I have a question about superhero shared universes. Lots of people are trying to make them, but it feels like only Marvel and DC have any success at it. Recently, Image started the Radiant Black shared superhero universe, but it really doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It has some fans, but it's hardly a success. Why do you think shared superhero universes are so hard to make? I have a feeling that if an indie company could crack that, they could be as successful as Marvel and DC quickly. Again, thanks for all you do. I'm always listening. Okay, always. All right. First of all, I think, the idea of whether it's a shared superhero universe or just a shared universe, I think they both kind of suffer from the same problem. And in a weird way, it's kind of what you said there right at the end, which I think is the trap that they fall into, which is they try to get to it quickly, or they try to win quickly. And I think for an example, you could take a look at DC. So DC, I know, not an indie company, and obviously in the comics, they do have a shared universe. But if you look at the movies, one of the things that DC did when Snyder was coming out, and it wasn't Snyder, to be fair, it was more Warner Media, and I would argue this probably was one of the things that set Snyder up for failure, is they went to we're creating a shared superhero universe. We're gonna have our phase plan. They basically took all the wording that Kevin Feige and the MCU had popularized around, phase 1, phase 2, and we're going to announce all these movies in advance. We're going to do it this way. They basically took that same playbook and they said, we'll do it, but faster. We'll get to it quickly. We're going to have a Batman movie and a Flash movie. And we're going to tease over here and all this. And the problem is it worked for Marvel because in the first several years, it felt organic. The studio knew that, the people who were watching these movies knew that Iron Man ran around with other superheroes. For the normies, they might not know all the different details of who those heroes are, but everybody knew Marvel Comics produces lots of comics with lots of characters, and, they just assumed that was coming or that was part of the game. But Marvel didn't go out and at the beginning, make a lot of noise about their shared plans. They just started to build it. And once they built it for, several years, then they started getting into the phase 2, phase 3. I mean, very few people realized we were in a phase 1 until well into phase 2, and they started calling it that. Now, again, behind the scenes, you can do whatever you want. But it was interesting because DC never got it off the ground. They tried to go from 0 to 60 to try and catch up to what Marvel is doing, and they were announcing all these movies in advance. But it didn't feel organic, and it didn't feel like the fans were asking for this. It felt like they were being told, hey, here's more superhero shit, and you're going to watch it. That's how it came across. And I think a lot of the same thing happens in the comics. There's this, Radiant Black's a good example. Image made a lot of noise about a shared superhero universe. Kyle Higgins and team, I think they have some fans. That comic isn't doing terribly. It's doing okay. You're right. It'd be low and likely canceled if it was in Marvel land or DC land. But as an indie comic, yeah, it's fine. But I think that jumping to a shared superhero hero universe and calling it that and making a lot of noise about that tips it over kind of immediately. And people get less interested in the story. I mean, for a variety of reasons. The problem is you die from 1,000 cuts. You have people who are like, well, I don't have time for a show. I don't want to buy all those comics. They immediately jump in their minds to what it might look like 30 years from now if everything is successful, as opposed to, is this right now it's one comic. It's not a big financial commitment, but if you're being asked to do more, it's bad for people buying. It gets them tripped up. And I think it also, what you need to do is sell people on the story that you're bringing them. First and foremost, that's what they've got to go home with. That's what they've got to understand. And the idea of a shared superhero universe on its own means nothing. Quite frankly, it's more of a nuisance than anything else, and it doesn't replace the need to tell a good, solid story. I don't know. I think I'm making my point badly here. But the way to make a shared superhero universe work is to simply, first write a good comic. Start with something good. Once you have something that people like, cool, then do more of it. It sounds so simple. That's what you need to do. Just focus on getting one good book out. And I think you could point to Mark Millar as a good example of this. He's noted that a lot of these comics share the same universe, but he's never really pushed that. Others have mentioned it for him, but he's never pushed this, the Millar verse. And that's never been a big, see the latest tale of the Millar. It's never really gone like that. Yes, in the back of his comics, he has, Miller World as part of the way he advertises his comics, but it's not the universe. He's just talking about the comics he makes. And I think, he nods from one comic to another from time to time, and it works. It feels just kind of organic. To the reader, it feels like the focus is on the story and not on a bunch of logistical kind of underpinnings that make people crazy. The same thing, by the way, is true with Marvel and DC when they got going and they were part of a shared universe. You'd see characters interact with each other. It's like the thing is like, what people have been curious about is can the Hulk beat the Thing? I don't know. Let's have a comic where the two of them come together, see what happens. What if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? He just shows up. There's none of this this kind of reminding that we're in this shared universe. And by the way, it's not just for superheroes. As I mentioned, there was the Universal Monsterverse where the monsters were all supposed to be in the same. Like that stuff. It's fun for geeks. And by the way, and it's another video for another time, these are the kind of things that appeal to people who go to comic conventions. These are not the things that appeal to the mass market. If you go to a comic convention right now, you will be shocked by the audience that's there. I've had this conversation, I don't know how many times with retailers. The people that come into your store to buy comics, they're not the same. It's not the same audience that comes to a Comic-Con. It's a completely different set of people. And you watch that, you're like, how did this, how is this group doesn't, I mean, it's not at all. But what happens is that a lot of the people in charge look at the Comic-Con universe as saying, these are the most loyal fans. These are the most, the ones that are going to spend the most money. These are the true fans that we have. And so if we do everything for them, then, it will trickle down and be reflected in everything that we do. But it's not the case. It's a completely different psychology and type of person that goes to a Comic-Con versus the person who goes into the comic shop every week and buys comics. And people, you really got to figure that out. If you're trying to make a mass market, and that the emphasis there is mass market, you have to appeal to kind of, to the people who are coming in day out buying your products. By the way, the same thing is true with any comics that are crowdfunded. There's people who will show up to a live stream. By the way, those people will buy the comic and they'll certainly be part of the show. But if you want to go mass market, you got to get to kind of the bigger group. Now, crowdfunding isn't the best example because comics aren't sold in box stores or shops, or they're sold via that one channel only. But if crowdfunding wants to expand, It's got to start getting to, people who aren't going to show up on a stream. It's got to get to, the normies. I mean, depending on what you want, there's nothing wrong with, having a niche product and saying, hey, I can make $1 million off this. Cool. I mean, who wouldn't want $1 million? That's wonderful. But if you can, I always look at it this way. If you can make $1 million via, a internet direct only channel for a book, you'll probably make $10 million if you crack the mass market. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. But, what do I know? By the way, when I say mass market, please don't interpret that in your head to, you got to go get a diamond contract and get your stuff into to comic shops. Yeah, that's one channel, but that is not, in no universe is the LCS direct market the mass market. That is not the mass market at all. Anyway, video for another time. So the shared universe, I think, don't sell the shared universe. Sell the power of your stories, and then keep the commitment going. Certainly leave the door open for more. The Unbreakable Argonauts by Ashley that I did the interview with. He hopes to do more, and so he leaves things in his comic to set him up to do more. But if he was promoting his comic as the first in a series of shared universes, this is phase 1, and next year we'll be in phase X, and that would be a mistake. He's not doing that, and that would be foolish if he did. Create a great comic, set it up, go. That's what you do. Anyway, thanks for listening.